Hi, this is Michael Yurchak, and you're listening to the FSF Podcast.
Hello, guys, and welcome to the FSF Podcast. I am Tim. I am your host, and I'm joined here today by my co-host, Kathleen. We are making this show for nerds, and it's made by nerds. So we're hoping that you guys enjoy what we have to offer today. And that, of course, is our guest, who's a longtime actor and voice actor. You've seen and heard of many of the video games, animes, and movies that you've watched and enjoyed over the years. He's the voice, and I'm going to screw these names up just horribly, and so he can correct me in just a moment. He's the voice of Tobi and Obito in Naruto Shippuden, Hawkeye in Sailor Moon, Hugo in Skylanders, as well as many guest appearances and a lot of popular TV shows. We are very excited to welcome Michael Yurchak to the FSF Podcast. Welcome to the show, Michael.
Thank you so much. You did pretty well, Obito, not Obito, and but that's an easy one to make a mistake on. So there you go.
Yeah,
I feel like you could have picked harder ones out of his list as well.
Well, I'm not. I thought about it. I had a couple other ones in there, and I'm like, I can't even say that one. Nope. I'm dumb, Kathleen. I'm not stupid. There's a difference.
Well,
in this instance, I'm dumb, not stupid. Let's put it. My niece, who's been visiting us for the last few days, is what is called a weeb. She's a huge anime fan, and I was like, oh, the guy I'm interviewing today is an anime. She's like, oh. And I messed up and called it Naruto. Naruto, yeah. And she's like, Uncle Tim, that's Naruto. Yeah. I was like,
and Shippuden.
Yeah. Shippuden. She didn't correct me on that. Shippuden. I think I said Shippuden. But yeah. So yeah, Naruto Shippuden.
Naruto.
So, yeah, I still didn't get it right.
But you know what though? What's funny about that is that people on the show get that wrong all the time, and it's a thing, and there is infighting within the cast because we have we go to these conventions with some regularity, a couple times a month or whatever. There's not always a ton of us there, but almost always, if I'm somewhere, there will be at least one or two other people from the cast there. Sometimes we have as many as 10 or 12. And we have these kind of reunion panels as entertainment for the folks at the cons, and someone will say Naruto, and Miley Flanagan, who is Naruto, gets so pissed in a delightful way, but is not shy about correcting people on stage in front of an audience of 1,000 or so. And it's
I love it.
It's kind of awesome. Yeah.
Well, good. I don't feel as bad then. All right. So one of the things that we like to do here, Michael, the first things is like we said in the preamble to the show, this is a show made by nerds for nerds. And Kathleen and I are self-admitted nerds, but we also like to know what makes our guests tick, how they got to be who they are, what influenced them to be who they are, an origin story, so to speak. Nerds love an origin story. So in the origin story of Michael Yurchak, what was it about acting that caught your attention and made you want to pursue a career in the arts? What's your origin story?
Well, we can, I'll do this in the short and sweet version that is also probably going to end up getting kind of long. But the easy answer is I was the youngest kid and desperate for attention all the time. I grew up doing, just clowning and doing voices and playing around with accents and mimicking people and so on for laughs in the house, at school, on the soccer field, etc. I did some theater growing up, but it wasn't until late in my high school career, because I was an athlete for a long time too. So I did some theater as a kid, and then I started playing sports, and I got into that, but was still always kind of playful in terms of doing characters a lot. And then I did a couple of plays my senior year of high school and really did love it. And when I went to college, I decided to keep on doing that. And then at the same time, I started doing some sketch comedy where I was really kind of getting into character work and developing that kind of stuff. So doing theater and sketch in college. When I finished college, I moved out to LA, was doing, trying to get acting work, doing a lot of commercials and things like that, and also a lot of improv. And so I had made the decision late in my college career. Like I think I'm gonna move to Los Angeles after I graduate and try to do this for real. I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't know what that meant. I had lots of friends who were going to be ski bums in Tahoe, or live, down in the Florida Keys, and, just to hang out at the beach and all that kind of stuff. So it was like, I didn't feel a tremendous pressure to do the real job just yet. So I figured I had some time to tinker. And I came out, and that was, I was okay with the idea of, if this turns out to be my couple of years living at a mountain skiing, and then I turn and do something more serious later, so be it. But as it turned out, I had just enough action to kind of keep me in. It's like going to Vegas, where,
Nice.
you win a couple hands, and you can't say no after a
I'm
while.
feeling
And
hot.
so, yeah, exactly. So then after a bit, it just, one thing led to another, and years went by. And I just kept on doing it. Somewhere after I'd been doing it for about 5-6 years or so, somebody suggested to me that I look into getting into voiceover, and I didn't. It had never occurred to me. I didn't know that part of the industry. But they said, you are doing all this sketch comedy, all the parts you ever get on TV. I played an English guy, or I played a nerd, or I played a, whatever, like any kind of, it was all kind of character based stuff. And So it was like, this makes sense. How do you do it? They said, take a class. I took a class, make a demo. I made a demo. Submit it to some agencies. I was in the fortunate position at the time. I was already making money doing commercials and stuff. So
Sure.
I had access to agents that would listen to something I handed them. But they didn't have to say yes, and they did. And the very first gig I auditioned for, so I made a demo, sent it in, and gave it to my agent. They said, all right, let's try it. The very first thing they sent me out for was as the spokesperson of a toy store at the time called KB Toys, which was this
Yeah.
big, sort of, national
Oh
thing.
yeah.
And I got it, like, for whatever reason, I got it. And that was my very first job, and it was awesome because it really taught me how to do it. I did, I don't know, probably 9 or 10 national television commercials, and countless, sort of cuts of those for regional spots and radio spots and internet spots and so on. And I did, for about a year and a half or so, I was just working 3 or 4 days a week on this stuff, in and out of the booth, always playing with copy, always messing around, doing different things, being directed, knowing what it feels like to kind of have that stuff as part of your world. Which is not, that's not an easy thing to teach, or to gain from just classes and things like
Right.
the interfacing of working as an actor, and working in a voiceover capacity, is like, it's a experiential kind of an education. So that kind of set me up. I did it, and then I just kind of never looked back. It's always been the most consistent part of my career ever since. And the thing that always enchanted me, for sure, I told you at the beginning, was just kind of the the attention I would get, but in a very real way, after my initial brush with that, like, moderate success, there was a strike from the Screen Actors Guild, and everything went
Mhm.
away. So I had quit my bartending job. I had sort of bought a new car. I was, feeling like I have arrived kind of moment. And then there was a strike. It all went away. I hadn't saved any money. Um, and I had to go back to waiting tables. And I started questioning, what am I doing, and who am I? And,
Sure. Yeah.
do I know what I'm doing? So I ended up going back to graduate school late in the game. And while I was there, I just got a lot more familiar, and I found a lot more love for the, as cheesy as it might sound, for the craft, and for theater, and for the literature that
Hmm.
surrounds
Hmm.
it, classical stuff especially. And I just, there was just something about the idea of bringing great stories to life and getting a chance to uh, live through another character's experience that was, and, super exciting and super satisfying. And I just kind of have done it ever since. And yeah, so I'll leave it there. But the story continues because you got to fast forward from there to much
Sure.
later, which is now, because now I'm an old man.
I think he said
No,
something
it's a good
early on
story.
in that answer that resonated with both me and Tim. With the I was the youngest child and always craving attention, and I know that Tim and I both did the yeah, that makes sense. We
It's
both
like, yeah,
Yeah,
I feel that
we
one. I
both
get
do
you
that
there.
too. As
yeah,
we're
yeah,
hosting a
I
podcast.
don't know what
yeah.
It just when you said it, I'm like, oh, that resonates way too much. Yep.
Yeah, I think it starts that way for lots of people. There's a sense of like, messing around. And that's enough. It doesn't have to be much more than that. For as it turns out for me, I did end up having a love of the theater. I really do love sort of interpreting dramatic text and figuring out what the hell's going on and bringing characters to life. And I think that lends itself to the stuff that I've ended up having a chance to do. I mean, Naruto, for example, is this gigantic epic story, and my particular character, which is really kind of broken into two characters, but it's the same guy, is goes through this incredible journey of love and loss and pain and sin and ultimately redemption and then sacrifice, and it finishes with this incredible kind of comeback story. And it is this, and it takes place over years and years and years. And that show, I recorded that show for 12 years, and I was on the late side of it. I got in and we recorded that from 2007 to 2019 ish. But they started it in 2004. I just hadn't shown up yet.
Yeah.
So, or at least not the iteration of me. And so, I mean, that thing was on forever. And, throughout that process, I grew up, I changed, my parents died, babies were born.
Yeah.
I got my doctorate, like stuff went on. I almost said a different S word, but it's a family show. See, I don't do that. I don't do that. You're
Yeah.
welcome.
Oh goodness,
There
our
you go.
editor thanks you. So, Michael, I was looking at your website in preparation for our conversation, and I was especially intrigued by the voiceover section of your website. I mean, I'm not really into anime, so those titles were not as like exciting and impressive to me. Not that they're not impressive, it's just that's not my field house. That's not where I'm like, oh, it's this person.
Mhm.
However, and this is going to sound incredibly ridiculous, as a Michigan girl who went to college down the street from Kellogg's factory, I got
Mhm.
really giddy looking at the fact that you did commercials for Fruit Loops. And I'm like, why
Uh,
is this making me laugh so much? But also,
yeah, Fruit
I
Loops.
was I was on a college campus that frequently smelled like Fruit Loops.
First of all, I love Fruit Loops. I think if I had to choose a cereal, it's Fruit Loops or sugar smacks or sugar
Oh yeah.
pops or whatever. I love those. But I don't think they're called sugar anymore. I think they're honey pops. But or maybe just pops. Yeah, I got to do a spot for that. I played like this big sort of iguana, like this big
Oh, okay.
multicolored iguana and his two little lizard friends, kind of all three of them in a commercial. That is a deep cut, but yeah, but yeah, yeah,
Well,
I've done commercials for all kinds of stuff.
there were a
It's
lot on that list. I was impressed. But then I
yeah.
kind of got to thinking, looking at those with the do you have a preference with your voice work? Do you prefer commercials or anime or video games or I mean, I guess it's kind of like saying do you have a favorite child? You can't really choose, can you?
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess so. The truth is, though, and the pound for pound, like you got to think about different things as far as that stuff goes, though, too, because it's like, you know, there's a practical side to all of this where we got to make a living. And commercials, particularly television commercials, used to be a great way to do that because you'd get residuals, so
Right.
that's like passive income. Once you've done a couple things that are out there, you keep getting paid for them, which is amazing when that's happening. And it's the way many actors kind of sustain the long periods of not getting work.
Mhm.
Those days are changing. They've been changing for a long time, and they've changed now to a point where it's kind of rare anymore. You get sort of these days what would be considered like a buyout from the beginning, which is significantly less than we used to make, and probably that's a reasonable thing, although it does make it a whole lot harder to just be a working actor. The commercial work is it's short and sweet. I mean, on that the Fruit Loops commercial, that's probably 3 or 4 words that I said in a 45-minute session, and then it's like, see you later. And 25 years later, I'm asked about it on a podcast. It's like, is that the most satisfying part of my job? No, but I liked it. It was like, it was great. Um, work that is evergreen, work that you get to keep doing again and again is to me the most satisfying. So whether it is cartoons, animation, or anime, being involved in multiple episodes of multiple seasons of a particular show is exciting to do, because you really kind of you feel an ownership of the thing. Another just commercial example, right, is that I played in a handful of commercials and this little short like mini documentary film, and then like a recorded album. I got to be Count Chocula for one little stretch of time. The actor who originated that role is still alive and usually plays the role, but was unavailable for this little stretch of time, and so they hired somebody else to do it, and it happened to be me. Um, that was extremely exciting, and then also went away completely, and it's sort of like not mine. And so I tell people, I've got a box of Count Chocula on the wall, on the shelf of glory back there, but I don't claim to be the voice of Count Chocula so much as I got to voice Count Chocula for a little while.
Right.
um, and that's different. I mean, I am the voice of Obito. This is my guy, and I and so that is exciting and fun and real.
Yeah.
And and again, there is too, like, it's super fun to get to do that for video games too, especially if it's a series. There's a series of games called the Skylanders games. So in all of those games, I was Hugo, who is this little mole character who's like best friends with Finn, who is like the swashbuckling hero that kind of narrates the whole thing. And he has like a little nervous friend who is like, "Oh, Finn, I don't know if," or Flynn, is it Flynn? It's Flynn, I think. I don't know if this is such a good idea, or whatever, as you go through. And I got to be in all of those. And at conventions and things like that, there are kids and adults now, because they were kids then, who come and say like this, that my little brother and I played this game every single day. And sometimes it's very sweet. It can be very moving. Sometimes, people will tell stories about how something got them through a tough time, or what have
Right.
you. And it's just like, it's an amazing thing to get to have that. And I don't get that as much. I don't get that at all, really, with commercials.
Right.
But I appreciate them, and I'm not looking anybody's gift horse in the mouth, because daddy needs a job.
Right. That makes sense.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Larry Kenny would be okay with you saying that you voiced Count Chocula.
Yes, that's right. And we've met too, and he knows, but I'm very much like sort of like bow down. He's the guy.
Well, yeah, he is the voice. So
Yeah.
it's like, there are certain people who have filled in for others at different spots. You're like, I got to voice, and then there's people who are like, they are the voice.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
So and that makes sense. I get that.
Yeah.
But you've been an actor for quite a while. You've become established in your own right, and one of the things I like to talk to voice actors in particular about are the challenges that they discovered along the way in that are unique to voice acting and how they overcame some of those challenges. So is there something that you had to learn to overcome or learn like a workaround for, that you think would be beneficial for others as they're coming up in voice acting?
I think I understand that question. You know, the one, I mean, obviously, the biggest thing about working as a voice actor is that you are bodiless and faceless, so you don't have um, the visual cue that would enhance the inflection or tone of your voice to sort of lead your audience in the right direction.
Right.
Um, so you learn to sort of use your voice to bridge gaps, I guess. That's that's particularly true, honestly, when we're auditioning, um, because so just for example, there is when you ask me a question, I well, let me ask you a question. So, like, what'd you have for breakfast today, Tim?
Coffee. I'm
All
not
right,
much of a breakfast eater.
Kathleen, what'd you have for breakfast?
Toast.
Toast. All right. So you guys happen to be two people who have the opposite example of what I was just about to say, which is most of the time there is a thought process that happens which sounds like something, right? So people will say, coffee, or I toast, or something. There is like there's sort of there's pre life to the line. Acting, as you sometimes may hear, is reacting. We're always in response to something. And so
Okay.
for me, the workaround in voiceover, the thing about doing VO is that it's hard to remember to be in response when you're looking at only your lines on a flat page in a padded booth. But what you have to know is that you're not in a padded booth. You're on a tree limb hanging 1,000 feet above a rushing waterfall, and someone has just said, "All right, now jump," or whatever. And it is that, I don't think I can do this, or whatever.
Right.
There's a something that happens off the line that isn't the line, but is you sort of living. And same thing is true for between sentences and lines. If I'm picking something up, it changes my voice. If I'm, running while I'm talking, it changes my breath, or whatever. It's like stuff happens and it changes the way you deliver. And that part of the game is, I think is kind of it's such a useful thing to remember, because what it does is it changes a read from being just kind of flat and two-dimensional to suddenly being kind of three-dimensional and existing in a three-dimensional world where the character is experiencing real stuff in real time and reacting to it. And they also happen to be talking and delivering the lines that they're supposed to say, but they're doing that while they're running or lifting or punching or fighting or being scared or being cold or being distracted, seeing the squirrel or whatever or whatever.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So I guess that, I mean, I don't know. Does that answer it? Is that
perfectly? Yeah, that was a
good
great
bite of
answer.
that apple?
No, that was a great answer, because I think that for a lot of people, I don't think that many people really understand what voice actors do, how they do it. Especially since the era of COVID. There's been a lot of change to how voice actors do their job. That's caused people to go from working in a room where everybody was at to now they're working from home sometimes in their own padded closet. And
That's
I think
right.
I love the fact that people work from a padded room.
That way, just real quick on that, it's the thing is, there was a time, and this has been true for some time, but where you would do television shows and audiobooks or radio theater kind of stuff in a room with up to 12 other actors, maybe even more than that, but that would be on the high side. Often up to 2 or 3 other actors. That's even true for commercials. We used to do commercials together in a spot somewhere. that was a really, really fun way to work. And also, strangely, it was so much easier. I think for some people, it probably felt hard because if you are socially not comfortable in a collaborative setting, it can be difficult. But voice actors tend to be improvisers, and improvisers are jokesters, and jokesters are fun people. And
Mm-hmm.
being in the room with other people, you're going to say your line and you're going to put a little spin on it. And I
Mhm.
like that. And so I'm sort of yes-anding that and engaging with you in a new way on the line that I had prepared before we got in here. But now that you say that way, I'm saying this way. And then Kathleen's going to say her thing that way. And that reminds
Right.
me of this. And then you say that. And the next thing you know, you're doing the script, but it feels like you're riffing. And that energy is like priceless. And exactly as you said, it's a huge point. That's gone away since COVID. Sometimes they'll still kind of link people together and you'll play together, on sort of a Streamly or a Zoom call kind of thing. But that is few and far between. For the most part, we do almost everything in isolation now. And to me, the biggest thing we can do for ourselves as voice actors is to remember what it felt like or what it would feel like were we to be engaged with other people right now.
Sure.
Because that's what, like, this energy change happens and this kind of playful change happens and new ideas kind of bubble right up to the surface, and it's the best part of the work is really it. And so it's baffling to me that more studios aren't doing more of it again. But for the most part, they're not. There some people are bringing it back slowly, but it's just cost prohibitive, and it's time.
Yeah.
It's all about time and all of that, and getting
Yeah.
everybody.
This is the easy way for them to be able to do it. The cheaper way to be able to do it is
for sure.
you send me your files, you send me your files. That way we're not having to wait, get everybody together in one studio, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is when I get to completely switch topics and jump the other direction because that's what I do, and I'm really, really good at
Excellent.
it. So I was also, I mean, as I was preparing for the interview, like I said, I looked at your website, and then I actually made my way over to your Instagram. And I was looking at your Instagram with wow, that is a collection of con interactions and fan interactions. And then I stopped dead in my tracks and got very, very excited about one picture. And I know Tim knows where I'm going, and I know longtime listeners know where I'm going, but I saw a picture of you with your doggies. And now I must know about your doggies.
I wish they were in here. They're almost always in here somewhere. I just looked around for them because they're almost always here, but they just left. Yeah, I've got two little doggies. They're both sort of mid-sized, but they're both low to the ground, so they feel smaller than they are. They're both like 25-pound dogs. I have a white guy. That sounds weird, but I have a little white dog, a little long white dog named Dave. And he is,
Love it.
We're not totally sure how old he is. We think he was about 3. We rescued him. We think he was about 3 when we got him. He could have been 4. He's somewhere in the like 10 or 11 age now. So he's getting a little older. And he's a sweetheart, and is just he's long. We always say that if Dave ran for office, his slogan would be, "Dave, he's longer than you think." Because he's he looks like his face looks very much like some kind of a terrier, but he's long like a dachshund, and he sits with his feet out like this, like a schnauzer, and he's just he's got a whole bunch of stuff going on. He's adorable. And then our other guy is we also rescued, but we rescued him as a real puppy, and we think he is a golden mixed with what's the small kind of dog? It's
Is it like a Pomeranian?
A Chihuahua. Chihuahua. Yeah. So they call him. I've seen this written as a Goldie Chew. And so that's what we're going with. I'm not sure that that's the case. We haven't done we actually have right now in my house. We have that,
Oh, the swabs.
yeah, the
The
swab
doggy
thing, and
DNA.
yeah, exact doggy DNA thing, and we haven't done it for him yet, but he's just so cute. This dog is just like, I can't believe it. But I said this about both of them. I couldn't believe how much I loved Dave. Like after we got him, and then we had him, and then Fredo is the other guy and he was a COVID puppy, and I just can't believe it. This dog he really is though. Dave is really something special. Fredo is the most adorable, cuddly creature I've ever been
I
in touch with, and
love that.
I love them. Yeah. They're both great, and they're funny together, and all the rest of it. And they just kind of sulk around all day, and they're always very happy to see us and all
That's
of that.
amazing. I have a
Love it.
friend who actually just did the DNA testing for their dog because everybody that sees this dog and the vets had all done I think he's a black-mouthed cur. I'm pretty
Mhm.
sure he's a black-mouthed cur. Looks just like him. No, he's boxer, shepherd, and husky. It's like, how? I don't
Yeah.
see any, looking
Boxer,
at this
shepherd, and
dog.
husky. Is he big? Is that a big
He's
dog? Pretty
big.
big. Yeah.
He's big. He's
Yeah.
like 95
Not-
pounds. He's big.
Yeah.
Not me going to Google to see what a black-mouthed cur is.
They're beautiful.
Why aren't you going to Google
No,
to find out
I
what a
am.
Goldie Chew is?
They're super cute too. Oh my
Oh.
goodness.
That is cute. A Goldie Chew? Going now.
They're
Goldie,
amazing.
I don't know, how do you spell it? How did you spell it, Kathy? Goldie, Goldie, or Y, and Chew. How do you spell Chew? I don't know.
It's just kind of the golden Chihuahua mix.
There we go.
Oh.
That actually, so like if you write Golden Chihuahua, that is almost precisely what Fredo looks like.
He's
You know,
so
some of
cute.
those photos, yeah, it's
That
very,
is
very
such a
cute.
fluffy little butt too. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And the thing is, he has
So kind of like that.
hold on, now I've lost you because I was looking at myself. Yeah, just like that, and he
Okay.
has the temperament of a golden, which I had a golden when I was growing up, and he's
Mhm.
he's just constantly wanting to be touched and always wanting to be cuddled, and he's very happy to just sort of like put his head down on you. He sleeps like sort of rubbing into you.
Aw.
He's all over it,
Perfect.
and he's also these dogs are like a study in the difference between a dog that was rescued at 3 years old and rescued versus a dog that was rescued at 3 months old. Is Dave is like, he's happy to be here and he knows he's lucky, and is so good and like kind of defers to us at all times. Fredo is like, I'm the cutest thing in the world and you all know it. What are you going to do? Fire me? He's like, he just knows that he's there. He sleeps flat on his back, spread out. Like
Oh, sure, yeah.
there's no protective underbelly. It's like, he's just like, like come and get it if
Love
you
it.
want it. It's awesome.
I
Love
love
it.
that.
Yeah.
That's
We are
great.
both, Tim and I are both very big animal lovers. I have 3 cats and a dog. Tim's got 2 dogs and 2 cats. Is that all you're
Yeah,
at
2 and
currently?
2. Yeah.
But
Yeah, and I have proclaimed nothing else with a heartbeat comes in to the house for a while.
so is my
We're-
husband.
Yeah.
We're topped out at heartbeats in the house, so we're.
Got it.
But I love the ones we have, and I wouldn't trade them for anything. So
My husband
No.
said that last year too, and then my daughter's kitten showed up in our driveway.
No.
well, yeah, but that's the cat distribution system. There's not
Right.
much you can do about that.
Can't really argue with that.
I do want to point out, though, switching back topics, that we have been addressing you wrong this entire interview. You didn't get a
gosh.
doctorate from NYU for me to be calling you Mr. Yurchak. It's Dr.
Hey.
Yurchak.
Thank you.
Thank you. But according to your website, it says that you've taught and guest lectured at many colleges and universities. So what are your favorite topics to speak about?
Well, I teach specifically voice most of the time, not
Okay.
voiceover, but voice. I teach a particular technique called the Fitzmaurice voice work technique, which is it's just a theatrical vocal technique that is taught at colleges, universities, conservatories around the world, and so on. And I'm certified to do that. That is what I do. But then I also teach. I teach like classical theater and that kind of stuff, and acting, scene study, that kind of thing too. Um, and yeah, so I right now I teach at a place called the Strasberg Institute, which is a conservatory in West Hollywood. There's one in New York City as
Okay.
well, but so I teach there. And also at Cal State Fullerton, which is one of the big California schools out here. Um,
Yeah.
I teach those two different places, and then I do a bunch of private coaching as well. But those folks are they are all real interested in becoming professional actors at some point, and so it's exciting to work with young people in that way at this stage in my career. When I was in college and grad school, the people that I was working with were excellent teachers and really, really smart, and many of them had done stuff at the time, mostly in the theater, but um, had done some stuff, but not for a while. And I always missed. I when I was finishing, uh, I was hungry for information from somebody who was currently doing it, not from people who understood the theory and the practice behind it, um,
Sure.
or in addition to the people who understood the theory and the practice behind it. And I didn't get very much of that. So I like the fact that I am active in the field. I audition every single day. I've got gigs a bunch of times a month. I'm traveling the country, going to conventions, and kissing babies. And I am not speaking from a place of just the academy. I'm coming from a place like I'm in the industry and I'm out there and I'm doing it and I'm pounding the pavement and I'm shaking the hands and I'm going in front of people and I'm putting myself out there. Um, and I love that. I think acting makes me a better I think the fact that I'm active in the field makes me a better teacher in the room, in the classroom. And then being in the classroom makes me a better actor when I'm out in the field. Because when you have to slow down and articulate what it is you do and why, um, and then filter that through, of course, whatever thinker or pedagogy or whatever that you're kind of dissecting and examining in class, it really does kind of force you to take stock and get real specific and put words on this thing that is kind of slippery, and so why do I do it? What are the choices? How do I figure those things out? What are the steps I take to get to a place where I'm ready to step in front of the microphone and record, or step in front of the camera and perform, or step out on stage and let it all
Hmm.
hang out? Um, I really enjoyed that process of kind of coming to terms with all of that, and I've just done them both ever since. My first round of grad school was back in 2000. I finished in 2004 my master's, and then I went back again in 2016 or 2015, I guess, to get my doctorate. So it was like those. I went to college, then I waited for 10 years. I got my master's, then I waited for 10 more years, and then I got my doctorate. And I think I'm done now. But yeah, it's just I've enjoyed it, and it's neat to work with people who are dedicated and wanting to do it. There's an awesome kind of energy that comes from that, and it's a privilege really to get to spend time with those people.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, kind of bouncing off of that and looking at your educational background and what you're teaching currently, why do you think that it's important to keep the arts in the schools and readily available for everyone?
Because the arts are a lifesaver. I mean, that answer is easy. I honestly think art saves
Hmm.
kids' lives. It gives them an opportunity to express themselves in ways that strict academics just can never do. It's not that there's anything wrong with the academic side of things, but giving kids an emotional and spiritual and artistic outlet for all the stuff that's going on inside them is is so valuable and so important. And then the life lessons that they learn within that, there is virtually every topic of education covered in every one of the art forms, including math and science and English and history and anything else you can kind of throw a stick at, ethics and debate and all the rest of it. And then there are also the softer skills like public speaking and collaboration and learning how to deal with disappointment and understanding your own role and knowing that no one role is greater than the sum of its parts the stuff that kids get from being a part of, in my case, a theater production. But honestly, I feel this way about any of the art forms, painting and sculpture and ceramics and woodworking and any of the tactile kind of art media. There's just something that where the mind kind of takes over and begins to create learning on its own. It's like AI before there was AI. It's like we become better by doing things, and you don't have to be a particularly excellent artist either. We used to say when I was working, for theaters, I used to do a lot of outreach work where I would go out and do these mini art residencies in high schools. On behalf of certain theater groups and things like that. And it's like we're not providing excellence, we're providing access. And the access is just so important. Now, some kids will go on and explore a passion, which might lead to excellence. But the access alone is such a gift to a child, a young person, an adult, who might not have had the opportunity to that point to experience something like this, whether it be live theater or painting or anything. And then there's all kinds of access as well in terms of representation and things like that, which I recognize my own sort of limitations in that part of things, but I'm really committed to providing and supporting and collaborating with people, and with a diverse kind of set of skills, background, et cetera.
Perfect. Yeah.
I love it. That is
All
a
right.
solid answer. And I feel like it's such a crime that it's one of the easiest things for people to cut is we're going to cut entertainment, we're going to cut arts. And it's like, but there's so much importance in it.
Yeah.
That it is what makes us tick as humans. That is, you're taking away our heartbeat. Like,
yeah. And the thing is too, it's like, I think it's good for everybody, but then honestly, I go back to my gut reaction at first was that it's good for everybody, but for some kids, it's the only thing. And if you take away the thing that's the only thing for kids, and you're going to lose kids. And it's unconscionable to me, because you'd never, that same system that would take away art would never take away their football program,
right.
Or what have you. And, frankly, I think there's a big argument to be made that while football is, there are a lot of kids that can be active on a football team. There are a lot of kids, who are getting everything they need from the theater or from the art department, and that's the or the band department or whatever, the music department, or chorus or what have you. To disregard the needs and development of those kids because of a bias that is just inherent to the way people kind of think about education is a bummer. But no one will ever outright say it's just that we don't think it's important. It's just sort of like we just had to cut somewhere, and that's this sort of like fake pearl clutching that happens. That just like it's disingenuous at best, I think.
We had to cut something.
And exactly. That is when I was writing questions and I told my husband, I'm like, this is what I want to ask him. He's like, oh yeah, because somehow the football team can always always get new uniforms or new scoreboard or
Right,
whatever,
right,
but heaven
right.
forbid we put
Yeah,
money into the art
yeah,
department.
yeah.
Comes down to
And
this.
well, and that's the thing is people will say, well, that's because the football team generates money, but in high schools that's not true.
Mm-mm.
If
Not
in
even close.
fact, in fact, uh, the argument could be made that theater makes as much money
Yeah,
because people pay for tickets for that too, and really nobody pays for tickets, and really it doesn't matter anyway because the kind of money you're talking about are hundreds of dollars, not thousands of dollars, and that's not what keeps
Yeah.
a program alive.
right.
So the only thing that is true though is that um, alumni, will contribute money back. The endowment of a school or the fundraising of a school
Right.
can ride on the shoulders of rich alumni who might have played sports or what have you. But
Yeah.
just as likely, or it's every bit as possible that kids who were as long as they felt comfortable and loved and supported when they were there, your artists can give back too. you know so I don't
Yeah.
know, but anyway,
I
yeah,
was
no, it's a great question, and of course I believe really really deeply in that.
I feel like I was incredibly blessed. The high school that I went to, we had a couple in town that owned a couple of the factories in town that loved donating to the art department. Loved
That's
to the
amazing.
point where the new theater that they have is dedicated in their name. The production of Beauty and the Beast that I was in high school, they paid
Yay.
for. Like it
Yeah.
was the fact that the bombs would pay, they would do these things, but they also paid for a new football field after the other one got burned. Like it was
Yay. Yeah.
they realized, no, we're gonna do
Spread the
this.
wealth. Literally spread the wealth. That's
Yes.
all. I think that's all anyone can ask. It's just that so often it's not just not spreading the wealth. It's like let's cut off our ear.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
I got another ear. What do I need my right one for?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we have one final question for you,
What is
Michael. Yeah, we call it our silly question, and we ask these silly questions because, well, we all of the rest of them are always so serious. But in this instance, now we're big fans of the Muppets, and we like to see different things getting remade from time to time in the Muppets universe. What is a piece of classical literature that you would love to see get Muppetized?
First of all, I think that I want to say there is an episode of the Muppets where Gonzo plays. I distinctly recall him wearing sort of like classical Shakespearean garb. I don't remember what he's playing, but if it isn't Hamlet, I'd like to see Hamlet. I'd love to see what they do with Macbeth because it's a particularly bloody play, and I think that it would be kind of funny to see sort of murder taken into the hands. I mean, Hamlet's a pretty bloody play too, but I love all of the classical work and the sort of the canon and. The big tragedies are great favorites of mine. Probably my favorite is King Lear, but I think that when I think of the Muppets, I think that either Hamlet or Macbeth would kind of kill it.
Ooh,
Literally, no pun intended.
right. I would love
Solid picks.
a Muppet
Yeah.
version of Hamlet. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, it'd be great.
Yeah, solid picks.
To be or not to be, that is the question.
Oh goodness, Michael, thank you so much for cutting some time out of your day for us today. Where can our viewers and our listeners go to find out more about you and your work?
Yeah, I'd love you all to follow me on Instagram, first of all, at Michael Yurchak. You can check out my website, michaelyurchak.com. But then I've got a couple of shows coming up that I'd love to kind of shout out.
Oh yeah.
First is I'm on Netflix. There's a show called TP Bon, which just dropped its first couple episodes, but there are 2 full seasons in the can coming. And there's another show called Rising Impact. Same thing. It's actually it's premiering next week, I think. But there are, again, we've already recorded 2 full seasons. So stay tuned for that. And there's a third show called My Adventures with Superman. That's a big one. That started its second season. I was only in the second season, and I'm hoping I come back for the third. But I'm in that one too. And then in the con game, I will be at Anime Los Angeles Anime Expo Los Angeles next week, July 4th and 7th. And then I will be at Anime Fan Weekend in Houston from July 19th and 19th to the 21st. So come on by either of those if you're in the Houston or the LA area, and tune into Netflix or HBO if you're not. And one way or another, follow me on Instagram, and I hope I get to meet you soon.
Perfect.
Well, we are definitely linking all of that because it sounds awesome.
Thank you.
Exactly.
If I was in the LA or Houston area, I would go, but here I am stuck in Michigan.
All right, guys, I want to remind you that subscribing is the single most important thing that you can do to help our show to continue to grow. Get awesome guests like Michael Yurchak to stop by and talk about what they're doing and give you some funny moments to be able to listen to. So please subscribe. It helps us more than we can really begin to tell you. John, our producer, is going to put something up on the screen right about now. Probably already did it, but that's not the point. But click the like and subscribe button. It really does help more than we can tell you.
Probably did
and
it
be
really
sure to
doesn't make you look dumb.
He will, and that's fine. I realized that as I was saying it.
Or he'll put your face.
Probably. That's also an option. But make sure you guys go check out Michael's work. He's got a lot of really cool stuff out there. You don't have to be an anime fan to appreciate everything he does. He's done also, we didn't even get a chance to talk about this today, but, future chats maybe, his work with the Broken Lizard comedy troupe and all the stuff that he's done with them. And I'm big fan of Broken Lizard. So, I want...
I'm literally from here right now. I'm about to go have dinner with Paul Soder, who's one of the guys, and then on Sunday I'm having lunch with Jay. Nice. Those guys, they're like my big brothers. Those guys, I see them all the time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Tell them that a guy from a podcast that they've probably never heard of and they've never met thinks that they're awesome and it really appreciates their work. So. But no, seriously, big fan of their stuff.
He also might want them on his show.
Honestly, there's also that. The line from Super Troopers 1 about shenanigans with Farva, that gets used in our house all the time. You say shenanigans? Yeah.
Did you see Super Troopers 2?
Oh yeah.
I know this isn't the audience for it, but do you know the key to life? That's my scene. That's right. That's my whole scene. That's all I'll say. All right.
Good times. Anyway, if you haven't checked that out, you probably should check that out because it's funny. Love the Broken Lizard guys. That's great stuff. So anyway, on that note, we're going to say thank you to Michael Yurchak and say thank you to you, our audience, for checking out the FSF podcast today. Goodbye.
Bye.
Copyright 2024 FSF Podcast. Reference to any specific product or entity mentioned on this podcast does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by FSF Podcast. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. If you have any questions about this disclaimer, please contact us via email at info@fsfpodcast.com.